Hi and welcome to the Aspire Europe P3O course videos. In this one, I'm going to talk about functions and roles within a P3O office. My name is Rod Sowden, Managing Director of Aspire Europe. I'll be with you through the whole series of videos. Okay, so first of all, we've got to think about the scope of the P3O. What services and processes are we going to include? Which ones do we run ourselves? And there may be those that we have a relationship with other departments, for example, commercial. Yeah, we may not do all our own procurement. We may work with them on this, depending on the size and scale of your organization. Now, when we're thinking about scope, there's a huge amount of things that we might need to cover. Generally within program project management, there's about 20 processes that we generally deal with. And as you can see, the list down the side there, business case planning, health and safety, assurance, all these things are mentioned in P3O as things that we could get involved in as the portfolio office. And for each one of those, we need to decide which one we're going to use. We need to think about what its priority, because that stuff isn't going to happen overnight. We then need to design it, implement it, operate it, and improve it. So we are committing to a long-term engagement on this stuff, and there's a whole number of areas that we can look at. So we need to really think about what our priorities are at the outset, which things are causing the organisation most pain. Probably business cases in there. Most organisations are pretty poor at planning. There's a whole range of things. So we also need to think about our relationship with other parts of the organisation when we're dealing with this. So if you are standing up a portfolio office, there may already be program and project offices out there operating, and they may not always be that pleased to see you because you may be seen as having more authority than them. So you can quite often hit some sort of kind of turf wars when you're standing up a P3O initially. So consulting with them, finding the areas where they think they could do with some help will help you gain some stakeholder engagement and actually look for some quick wins with the establishment of your portfolio office. So to be an effective portfolio office, you can't ignore any of these processes because they are all actually needed. So quite a good way of addressing this is looking at the whole picture and saying, well, actually, we're okay at, say, risk management, governance, issue management, that's all okay. So we can actually say those are green, they don't really need any work at the moment. So you can almost, I wouldn't suggest put them completely out of scope, but deprioritize them. But then you can say, well, where's the real pain? Well, they could be around business cases. We're not getting them through, they're not getting approved, they're getting delayed, or they're going through without suitable rigor, which means that later in the process, there's problems. It could be that there's no assurance, so that projects are just running amok. Gate reviews will help that too. So using this approach, we can see that there are some areas that are urgent. We've marked those red, and the others we've ambered them. So we've rag rated them, and we can use that to develop our priorities for the first tranche of implementation. But it also means we don't forget things because they are all important, okay? And also then you can use a table like this to track your implementation. So are they in design, are they in implementation, are they managed, or are they ready to be evolved? Because you can keep this plan going forever, if you like. And there may be some exit that you might want to stop for some reason or give to somebody else. So we call that the DIME model, D-I-M-E, design, implement, manage, evolve. All right, so hopefully, that's technically not within P3O, but hopefully that will provide you a bit of help in working how to do this. What P3O is really interested in is the list of functions when you come to your multi-choice or the exam. Okay, now for each function, we've got to remember there's a bunch of things that need to be done, right? We need to establish some standards. What are the minimum rules you expect people to follow? Responsibilities, which roles are responsible for it? You might be using RACI or something like that. And then we need to think about developing a process, whether it's a swim lane diagram or whatever it is you choose to do. Then we've got to think about techniques. So obviously things like estimating benefits have a range of techniques. We need to actually build up to using those. And then we've got to think about where we're going to put the information, store the data that comes out of the techniques. Are we going to have a system supporting this, like a risk management system, or are we going to use something like P6 or Microsoft Online, Project Online? Which ones are we going to use? And then we need to write up the guidance. How do we expect people to do it? And of course, going with that will become training and competence. And if you're buying that service in from another part of an organisation, then you might want to think about service levels. Equally, if you're delivering the service to another part of the organisation, for example, you're the central hub and you're providing resources to the delivery hubs, what kind of service level? You might even get into actual service level agreements, pricing, rates, that kind of stuff, depending on how your organisation works. Around service levels, some of the things around it'll become relevant to a portfolio hub where it's providing services around the business. P3O is the same as any organisation in that it has a hierarchy, and P3O has picked up these 6 layers of roles that's worth considering when you're putting your structure together. So we need a sponsor at the start, the board level director that's banging the drum on your behalf, explaining all the value you're bringing and hopefully finding further investment. Then we've got the head of P3O or the head of portfolio, who's top of the functional tree. They'll have oversight over the whole model and how it functions, and they're ultimately accountable for what's being delivered. We also have the head of program or portfolio office. So what we're really looking at there is the head of one of those delivery offices. So you could have a PMO director or a program director, a role such as that, or a project director who runs their own hub and reports and provides information into the head of P3O. Now, they might not report directly into the P3O if they're a program director, but they certainly need to have some sort of professional obligation to follow the rules set by the head of P3O. And then we've got 3 other terms. There's the portfolio analyst, which is working at optimizing the portfolio, probably an expert in reporting, data analysis, that kind of thing. Then we would have program and project specialists. They could be subject matter experts or people who look after a particular type of service. Potentially something like benefits management could be in that category, planning, estimating, any one of those. And they're the guys who would help the delivery group. So if they were struggling with how to do a benefits map, the specialist might actually be able to help them, or might even help host a benefits mapping workshop or something. And then we've got the program or project officers. Now they're really more around the centre of excellence in this model. So they'll be developing the standards, the supporting guidelines. They're the ones who could be specifying the training that's needed to improve performance. And you might have one of those dedicated to each of the functions. So you could have a resource manager officer, or you could have a planning officer, something like that. Okay, but just recognizing that some of them work in the delivery groups or support the delivery groups. Others are actually specifying things. So an officer would normally be above a specialist in the model that P3O is referring to. And finally, just remembering that we can have a centralized office or a virtual office. So there could be functions around the organization. So our finance subject matter expert could actually be a member of the finance team rather than a member of the portfolio team. So that's where we go for help. It could be that we find that our risk expert, or the guy who's really interested in it, he or she could be actually based in one of the delivery teams. They don't have to be in the central portfolio office. So there's different ways of playing this if it's virtual. And we talked on the other video about the dangers of having a huge lump of people in one place. So the chances are they will be to some extent virtual. So we would look to actually take advantage of the skills and expertise that we've got available to us across the organisation. Well, that's the end of this video. I hope you've got a bit more insight into the services and functions that a P3O could offer and some of the roles that P3O itself identifies, but the reality of it is your own P3O may look quite different to that. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoy the module. But first, go and get yourself a cup of coffee.